in. Crazy way to start a Thursday, but or full of themselves or big time everybody or out of touch with reality. I mean, he's not like that at all. And I'm really glad we were able to have that interview. It was a great hour that went by insanely fast for me. But it was really something I was looking forward to doing. And it was something that Wolfie and I had been talking about doing probably for 7-8 years ever since we first met, which would have been when he was out playing with Tremonti, which we touched on in yesterday's show. And then we saw each other as recently as February in LA when we were both at the Alter Bridge show together. So I hope that now that we've broken the seal, so to speak, and he's been a part of the show and come on the show, that he's somebody that we can include on a more regular basis and welcome in to maybe get involved in our top 20s or call in anytime he's got something to say or anytime he wants to set the record straight on something. And I hope that this show can provide a platform for him to do that, should he feel comfortable in wanting to do that. But the response was really, really positive. I mean, I saw nothing but very positive things everywhere I looked in regard to the interview. For me personally, I didn't, it was one of those interviews where I really enjoyed doing it, but I honestly wasn't even sure how I felt about it because I felt like we just started talking and I was looking at the clock and it seemed like half the hour had blown by already. It was literally one of the fastest hours I can ever remember feeling like I've done, just because there was so much I wanted to get to and I wanted to be, I wanted to talk about what he's doing now, of course, but I mean, for years we have been here on this show, you and I, talking about dissecting, debating, speculating on what may or may not have been real in all the Van Halen stuff we had heard. And to finally have somebody who could give it to us straight from an official source. How long for how long have I been saying that the problem why we do all this speculation is because nobody in an official capacity with Van Halen has ever spoken until now. So because of that, there was just so much in my mind that I wanted to hit him with because to his great credit, he was willing to talk about everything. And it wasn't one of those things that I despise where people say, oh, you don't ask about this or don't, make sure you don't talk about that. To his enormous credit, there was none of that. And I had about 3 pages of notes scribbled down of things I wanted to get into and talk with him about. And before I knew it, I looked at the clock. And of course, we have a couple commercial breaks and an hour of time on this show is in real time about 49 minutes, given our carve out for commercial time. So before I knew it, the hour was half over. And I'm like, oh my God, wait. So, and I'm mentally prioritizing, can I get some of this in? And then, of course, there were some things obviously he wanted to talk about and mention, and obviously he has a new song and a record coming. So doing that balancing act was a real challenge for me, and I'm glad so many people liked it because when we were done, I wasn't sure what to make of what I did, only because I felt like in my mind I was on this treadmill just trying to okay, I want to get a little bit of this and I want to get a little bit of that. And there were a couple things when I finished the interview that were on my sheet that I was like, damn, I would have loved to have gotten this. But we got a good smattering, if you will. It's a good word for the day, smattering of Wolfgang and the Van Halen story and some stuff about his dad and some funny stuff and some interesting stuff, and then some information about his own career and where he will be going with it. We learned that he will not be playing Van Halen songs when he goes out and plays live, unless somewhere down the road he does 1 or 2 in a very different arrangement. So you can see in the interview he did with me yesterday and other interviews you may have heard or read, what he's doing with this band is very much going to be its own thing. He wants it to be about him and the music he's made. And I've seen on more than one occasion where he said the wishes of his dad were for him to do his thing, do his music, create his own legacy, which I think is really admirable. I mean, do you realize the easy path it would be for him to say, I'm going to play guitar and basically emulate my dad and then put a great band together, or even plug in the other Van Halen guys and go play? I mean, that would be a huge thing, but it would be a much easier route. But to his credit, that's not of interest to him. He wants to be his own guy and create his own music legacy. Now, who knows what happens somewhere down the line? He's only, I think, about 30 years old. So people change, thoughts change as time goes by, perceptions on things change. But I think it's really admirable that his focus is about doing his own thing. So we learned that, which was interesting, among a bunch of other things. And I loved, as you would imagine, and you probably picked up on, and I don't know if Wolfgang listens to this show, and I don't know if how much he knows about me and my positions on things and what have you. But when I was asking him about his live band, and he said, well, yeah, we're just figuring out who's going to play what, if we need to add a fifth member to fill things out. He goes, because the last thing I want to do is play to tracks. That's just lame. Or a similar word. I don't know if he said lame, but just as good of a word. And man, was that a wonderful thing to hear, especially from a younger guy. So many of these younger bands just load up their laptops and go on the road and fake it. To hear him say that, that's why I got real excited when he said it, which has trickled on over into social media as well, because people don't even understand what it means playing. Some people don't even understand what he meant by that. They took it another way, but you all know what we're talking about when we say that. So that was fantastic to hear him say that. And I love when other artists say it and call it out and talk about how utterly lame and ridiculous and fake it is. So, great stuff in there. And, clearly we got a very different thing going on right now, because for the first time we have a guy who's, as I was saying and called him yesterday, the custodian of the Van Halen world, who is younger, who is active on social media, who is engaging with fans, and who is doing interviews. And it's not something that we've had in the Van Halen world for a really long time. Even back in the day, 84, 83 or whatever, I mean, there were interviews, but I think they were somewhat sporadic. So I'm curious to see going forward if he maintains doing that. Is he going to really be out there constantly, or was this, okay, we're going to do a bunch of stuff for a couple days, then shut it down, and we'll talk to you more when the record comes out? I don't know. These are some of the things I wanted to ask that I didn't have time to ask, but we got a lot of good stuff in the conversation yesterday. And I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Just about every comment I read or did see was very positive, and that's great. And we thank Wolfgang for joining in. If you want to call in, we'll have some time in this first hour. So if you want to call in today about anything in rock, or hit me with anything about the interview yesterday, or any of the interviews you've read. Again, Wolfie has been out there now for 3 days. I mean, started with Howard on Monday. He's done a few other radio interviews. He's done some print stuff, including Rolling Stone. He's done a couple TV hits. So there might be some things you learned or some things you heard along the way on other places beyond here. But if you've got some questions or comments about it, welcome. You're welcome to call in at 844-686-5863, 8446-VOLUME, or about anything in the world of rock. We'll maybe get a little jump start on Free For All Friday, which of course happens tomorrow. Before we grab some news from Alex, though, a few things I want to mention from you guys, or to you guys rather, that I have learned. First of all, I had 2 gigs scheduled for December that I find out today both are now canceled.